A curved stick lies across the trail ahead of you. You're already 3 feet back before your eyes have even finished looking at it. Not after you recognized it wasn't a snake. Before. Some part of your brain saw the shape, decided it was dangerous, and moved your legs, and only afterward did the rest of you catch up and go, oh, it's just a stick. So why does part of your brain react to a curved shape faster than the part of you that actually sees? First, a few things this isn't. It isn't clumsiness. It isn't a phobia that only some people happen to have. And it isn't something you learned from one bad childhood encounter. Because, as you'll see, the wiring shows up in people who have never once been near a real snake in their lives. A coiled garden hose, a dark cable looping across a hallway floor, a rope left in a pile on a boat deck. Different object, same half-second flinch in people who couldn't tell you why. In 2001, psychologist Arne Öhman at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm proposed that fear like this runs on its own dedicated circuit, what he called a fear module. Ordinary vision takes a long scenic route, eye to visual cortex to the slower thinking parts of your brain, and only then to an emotional reaction. But threat-shaped objects get a shortcut. Signals travel from the eye through a structure called the pulvinar straight to the amygdala, skipping the slow, deliberate route almost entirely. It's a back road that bypasses the part of your brain that would normally sit and think about it. That shortcut explains the order of events on the trail. The jump comes first because the signal reaches the amygdala before it's finished being processed as a conscious image. You don't decide to flinch. The flinching is the decision, made by a part of your brain that was never going to wait for a vote. And Uhrmann found this fast lane response was also unusually hard to switch off with willpower alone, compared to fears people pick up through ordinary experience like a fear of cars or electrical sockets. This is where the obvious explanation falls apart. A skeptic might say this is just personal fear. Some people have had bad experiences with snakes, and that's why they jump. But in 2008, researchers Vanessa Lobu and Judy Deloach at the University of Virginia tested this directly. They showed 3-year-olds, children with essentially no real world snake experience at all, a screen full of photos flowers, frogs, caterpillars, and snakes and simply asked them to find one specific image as fast as they could. The 3-year-old spotted the snake faster than any of the harmless images, every time. Nobody taught these kids to be afraid of snakes. Nobody had to. So why snakes specifically out of every possible danger? In 2006, biologist Lynn Isbell at the University of California, Davis proposed an answer that goes back further than fear itself. Snakes may be the reason primates can see this well in the first place. Isbell showed that primate species whose ancestors evolved alongside venomous snakes generation after generation developed sharper vision and larger visual processing brain regions than close relatives, like lemurs in Madagascar, whose ancestors never had to. The pressure to spot a camouflaged predator in the leaf litter before it struck may have helped shape the very eyes you're using to read this sentence. You didn't inherit a fear of snakes. You may have inherited eyes built, in part, to find them. This isn't only a modern finding either. In 1872, Charles Darwin walked up to the reptile house at the London Zoological Gardens and pressed his face right against the glass in front of a puff adder, determined, in his own words, not to flinch if it struck. It struck. He jumped backward, a yard or two with astonishing rapidity. His own resolve, made entirely of conscious will, erased in a fraction of a second by a piece of glass he knew perfectly well would never break. He wasn't embarrassed by it. He was fascinated because he'd just proven on himself that knowing you're safe and feeling safe are two completely different systems, and only one of them takes orders from you. So the next time a shape in the grass, a shadow on the trail, or a coiled hose by the pool makes your whole body flinch before your mind has finished the sentence, that's not a snake. That's not you being jumpy. That's a circuit older than primates themselves, built specifically to beat your own awareness to the punch because the ancestors whose awareness got there first, even once, didn't always get a second try. You never made a single decision in any of this. The stick on the trail was never a close call for your amygdala. It had already acted and reported back to you after the fact, the same way it's been doing for every one of your ancestors on every trail for longer than there have been trails to walk on. And a curved shape on the ground isn't the only thing that can override your conscious mind before you even know you've reacted. Wait until you see what happens when the flood of feeling is the opposite of fear, when something is so overwhelmingly adorable that your own hands don't ask your permission either.